Subscribe because it's free.
The galaxy was ancient, filled with empires that had ruled the stars for millions of years. To them, Earth was nothing more than a cosmic footnote, a tiny, irrelevant world at the edge of an unremarkable arm of the Milky Way. The galactic community had watched humanity's slow, stumbling progress with amusement, while they had long since mastered space travel, bending the very fabric of reality to their will. Humans were still burning chemicals to propel themselves beyond their atmosphere. Primitive, when Earth was finally granted a seat on the Galactic Council, it was not out of respect but pity, a gesture meant to showcase the inclusivity of the older species, a token invitation extended to a race that had barely begun to crawl among the stars. They allowed humanity to speak, but no one listened, allowed them to sit at the table, but only as a novelty. The great civilization saw humans as little more than an experiment, an amusing, irrational species driven by emotion and arrogance. It wasn't just politics where the mockery thrived. Human technology was a running joke across the stars. While the elder races built megastructures that harnessed the power of black holes, humanity still relied on crude machinery. Their ships were laughably inefficient, relying on clunky engines instead of sleek energy fields. Their AI systems were rudimentary, their medicine barely scratching the surface of genetic mastery. Even their military, so often a source of pride for their kind, was seen as outdated and simplistic. They still used projectile-based weapons in an age where wars were fought with gravitational singularities and quantum disruptions. Their biology was another curiosity, weak, fragile, short-lived, compared to the towering reptilian warlords of the Droka or the near-immortal gas-formed intellects of the Klar. Humans were unimpressive in every way that mattered. They weren't the strongest, fastest, or smartest. They had no natural weapons, no regenerative abilities, no extraordinary lifespan. Even their adaptability, something they often boasted about, was dismissed as nothing more than the frantic scrambling of an inferior species trying to keep up. And yet, they were persistent. While they were mocked, humanity pushed forward, launching their ships into the void with reckless determination. They spread across the stars, establishing colonies in places no rational species would dare. They settled on frozen moons, baked desert planets, and asteroid belts where life was considered impossible. They refused to listen when told something was beyond their capabilities. They were reckless, stubborn, and unrelenting. Despite their persistence, the old species never truly took them seriously. Humanity had a habit of surviving, sure, but survival was not dominance. They had not yet proven themselves worthy of true respect. They were tolerated, even humored, but never feared. Even when their colonies endured conditions that should have wiped them out, the response was always the same. They are an anomaly, a curiosity, but not a force to be reckoned with. The great civilizations did not hate humans. They simply found them irrelevant. The universe had seen countless young species rise and fall, burning out before they ever became a true power. Humanity, in their eyes, was no different. And then something changed, something no one expected. A crisis emerged, one that defied the logic of even the most advanced minds in the galaxy, a force that shattered the arrogance of the great empires and exposed their vulnerability. It was not a war, not in the way wars were traditionally fought. This was something else, something worse. As entire systems fell into silence, as fleets vanished without a trace, as the oldest civilizations faced the first real fear they had known in eons, the galaxy did something it had never done before. It turned to humanity. Entire star systems went dark, not destroyed, erased, as if they had never existed. Trade routes that had been stable for millennia were suddenly abandoned. Frantic distress calls echoed across the void, but no response ever came. What started as isolated disappearances soon turned into an undeniable pattern. The galaxy was under attack. The first victims were the outer colonies of the oldest civilizations. Planets that stood for hundreds of thousands of years, reduced to nothing in an instant. No debris, no survivors. Just emptiness where entire worlds once thrived. The great empires, confident in their invulnerability, reacted with calculated precision. They mobilized their fleets, activated planetary defenses, and deployed their most powerful weapons. None of it worked. The enemy, if it could even be called that, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. It was not a fleet, not an empire with ambitions of conquest. It did not negotiate, did not communicate, did not seem to have any desire beyond its incomprehensible hunger. It consumed, not in a biological sense, but in a way that defied physics itself. Planets, ships, entire civilizations were simply unmade. The great powers of the galaxy fell into chaos. The Klar, beings of pure energy who once believed themselves untouchable, found their very essence unraveling. The warlike Drelka, whose fleets had crushed every challenger for 1,000 generations, watched their warships dissolve before they could even fire a shot. The Virexi, masters of artificial intelligence and synthetic life, saw their most advanced machines turn to dust in an instant. The Galactic Council convened in a desperate attempt to formulate a solution. The meeting, usually a place of arrogance and posturing, was now filled with an unfamiliar emotion: fear. Entire species that had once dismissed the idea of extinction now whispered of their impending doom. The most powerful minds of the universe worked tirelessly, analyzing every scrap of data, searching for any weakness in enemy. They found nothing. There was no pattern to its attacks, no demands, no apparent technology. It moved through the galaxy like a force of nature, unrelenting and unstoppable. For the first time in recorded history, the great empires of the galaxy considered retreat, not from a battle, but from existence itself. Some proposed abandoning their homeworlds, fleeing to the uncharted reaches of the void in the hope of escaping its reach. Others spoke of surrender, though none could say to whom or what. And then, in their desperation, they did something unthinkable. They turned to humanity. It was not out of respect. It was not because they believed humans had the answer. It was because they had no one else left to ask. The Galactic Council sent their envoys to Earth, masking their desperation behind thinly veiled politeness. They spoke in careful tones, still unwilling to acknowledge humanity as equals. The message was simple: assist or perish with the rest of them. Humanity listened. They did not gloat, did not remind the galaxy of the years of mockery, of being called primitive, insignificant. They simply asked for all available data on the anomaly, and then, in the way only humans could, they went to work. Humanity analyzed the data with an unsettling intensity. While the great empires of the galaxy had thrown their most advanced technology at the anomaly and failed, humanity approached the problem differently. They didn't try to overpower it. They studied it, looking for the flaw, the pattern, the one weakness hidden in the chaos. The elder species had always relied on their overwhelming superiority, trusting in weapons that could crack planets and ships that could cross entire star systems in the blink of an eye. But their technology had failed them. Their arrogance had blinded them to the possibility that brute force might not be the answer. Humans, however, had never been the strongest, never been the fastest. They had survived through adaptation, through finding solutions that no one else saw. And as they sifted through the wreckage of fallen worlds, as they pored over the last desperate transmissions of extinct civilizations, they found something. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a secret super technology. It was something much simpler. A mistake. The anomaly wasn't random. It wasn't an all-powerful force beyond comprehension. It was a machine, a construct from a time so ancient that even the oldest species in the galaxy had no record of it. It had been built for a purpose, long forgotten, and now it continued its function mindlessly, consuming without end. And most importantly, it wasn't perfect. Humanity identified a flaw, a crack in its behavior, an inconsistency in the way it erased entire systems. Every advanced civilization had tried to fight it the same way, with power, but power wasn't the answer. The anomaly was reacting to certain energy signatures, targeting civilizations that reached a specific technological threshold. The great empires had been too advanced for their own good. Their weapons, their ships, their entire infrastructure, everything they had built was like a beacon, drawing the anomaly toward them. But humanity was different. Their technology, crude by comparison, fell just below the threshold. The anomaly barely noticed them. The solution was obvious: hide in plain sight, trick the anomaly into seeing the great civilizations as something lesser, something unworthy of consumption. Humanity proposed a plan: shut down the galaxy, reduce technological signatures, cut off power grids, mask energy missions, force the anomaly to register the galaxy as empty space. The elder races were horrified. The idea of shutting down their mighty empires, of willingly crippling themselves, was unthinkable, but they had no choice. Every other option had failed. And so, the great empires of the galaxy did the impossible. They abandoned their pride. Power stations went dark. Megacities were shut down. Massive fleets were hidden, silenced. The galaxy, once a shining beacon of civilization, became a ghost town. The anomaly arrived, its formless presence scanning the void, seeking the energy it had been programmed to consume. It found nothing. The great empires, once so brilliant in the fabric of the universe, had vanished, and just as the humans had predicted, the anomaly moved on, searching for something else. It was over. The great crisis that had threatened to erase the galaxy had been averted, not through force, not through superior weapons, but through understanding, through strategy, through the simple, undeniable truth that sometimes the smartest move wasn't to fight, but to disappear. And the ones who had seen it, the ones who had saved them all, the same species of galaxy had once called insignificant. The silence that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. For the first time in millennia, the mighty empires of the stars stood humbled. Their great fleets, their invincible technologies, their ancient wisdom, none of it had saved them. In the end, it was a species they had mocked, dismissed, and overlooked that had delivered them from annihilation. The Galactic Council reconvened, but it was not the same as before. The air of superiority, the quiet disdain toward the so-called lesser races, had vanished. The once dominant civilizations were forced to acknowledge an uncomfortable truth. They had underestimated humanity. There was no grand ceremony, no formal declaration of respect. That was not the way of the older species. But changes rippled to the galactic order in ways that could not be ignored. When humanity spoke, others listened. When they proposed ideas, they were not dismissed out of hand. Alliances that had once seemed impossible began to form. Trade agreements were rewritten. Military coalitions were restructured, with humanity no longer treated as an afterthought, but as a key player. Some species welcomed this shift, eager to learn from the race that had outmaneuvered extinction. Others resented it, unwilling to accept that their place at the top had been shaken. The idea that a young, primitive species had accomplished what they could not was difficult to swallow. But it did not matter. The reality was undeniable. Humanity, for its part, did not demand recognition. They did not seek revenge for the years of mockery, nor did they impose their will on those they had saved. They simply continued as they always had, pushing forward, exploring, innovating. They expanded into the stars with renewed confidence, their colonies growing stronger, their technology advancing at a pace that now unsettled even the most ancient of civilizations. Yet, amidst this new respect, there was also unease. If an anomaly like this had nearly wiped out the galaxy, what else lurked in the dark? What other ancient threats remained hidden, waiting for the right moment to awaken? And now that humanity had proven what they were capable of, now that they had stepped onto stage as more than just an amusing footnote, how long before the galaxy turned its attention back to them? Not with laughter, but with fear? For centuries, the universe had mocked Earth. Now it watched them in silence.